Let me forge a new destiny. Introduction. I have heard that fate is a fixed number, luck is a variable, and the combination of the two is fate. Fixed numbers carry variables forward, and most creatures can only follow the path of destiny. That is to say, the path of destiny is supreme. But I am different. I play fortune-telling, focusing on achieving great fortune. Chapter 1. Traveler Xing. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In the 47th year of the Heinrich calendar, the turbulent sea was the seventh waterway. Amidst the swaying waves, accompanied by a pervasive sea smell, Xing opened his eyes. The rushing wind and rain hit his face, and the cold touch made him somewhat uncertain about his own state. I'm not dead. His memory still lingers in the oncoming flash floods and the thunderous thunder that runs through the sky. Boom. That's it, that's the thunder. But the difference is that it is more and more clear now in this storm. What goes into the ears with the thunder is not the cry of the companions, but rather the sound of fighting and waves, and the sound of a big knife piercing through the air. A strong man who almost wrote the pirate on his face, on this swaying deck, would stab Xing in the head. There was even no time to doubt whether this was a dream, as the fierce expression on the pirate's face had already made Xing's eyes run wild. Double. The memories of geological cows and horses from past lives were frozen in mudslides and lightning, and gradually faded away. And the life of a brand new sailor boy named Charles was quickly flashing before his eyes. Charles is a person with little ability. Born in the Heinrich calendar for 30 years, he is no different from other commoners. He is not a nobleman and cannot burst into battle to become a knight, nor can he show his talent to become a wizard, nor can he afford to buy fragments of the sky star to awaken himself. A mediocre person, apart from having some excellent skin, the only shining point of his life is facing the captain's invitation, not retreating but boarding this distant watermelon skin ship. Choose to become an adventurer and gamble on the possibility of awakening in life and death. Then he was tormented by seasickness until now, failing to catch anything along the way, and finally still on this seventh course, because the stimulation of pirates made his body on the brink of limits unable to support it anymore. Just like when he was alive, his death was also boring. At this moment, Xing, who replaced Charles, did not feel happy for his second life and was about to face a brand new death. This situation made Xing feel like, it seems like I will also die uninteresting. He tried to dodge, and his brand new soul seemed to fit perfectly with this body, allowing Xing to clearly see all the details of the pirate's movements across from him. The resistance of the body in the flow of every storm, the trembling of muscles in the impact of every drop of rain, are all so simple and clear. As long as he can avoid this once, Xing is confident that he can try the awakening in Charles's memory. As long as it can avoid. The weak body is like a cage, trapping his spirit firmly in place, only able to watch the deadly blade get closer and closer to him. What are you staring at, stinky kid? As if waking up from a big dream, the running lantern before death instantly turned into a shaky beard, dripping with rain and sweat. Behind the pirate who sprayed blood and fell, there was Captain Winder's slightly twisted face. In the turbulent wind and rain, the flickering thunder reflected his face with a very fierce expression, giving him a sense of security. Xing was gasping for breath and didn't have time to say anything when a big wave had already hit, causing the ship to sway even more violently. Amidst the turbulence, the captain grabbed Xing, who was struggling to find support, and stared. Pick up your knife, then go and steady the rudder. You boarded the ship to become a warrior, don't let yourself die like a coward. He only said this sentence and then pushed Xing away. Then raise your weapon and let out a loud roar. Nereus, the god of ocean currents, blesses us and sends these sea rats back to the bottom of the sea in the name of Malron. Wendy Malron, inheriting the surname of the god of the deep sea, believes in the kind god of ocean currents, Nereus, and is a heroic old sailor. He is fair and kind, with a friendly and trustworthy style, always acting with justice in mind. He is deeply respected by the crew in the independent kingdom of the watermelon peel. Now, the king of the watermelon peel tightened his weapon, dragging his limp and rushing towards death with his courtiers. Behind them, Xing, who was pushed to the ground, watched the pirates convulsing on the deck in front of him, trembling twice as if they were electrocuted. All of them are true. Now, he came to life completely. There was no time to recall his previous feelings, nor did he have time to think about what was missing. Charles's residual influence and his rational judgment made him subconsciously follow Captain Winder's instructions. Feeling a weapon from the ground, Xing stumbled up and headed towards the position of the rudder in his memory. Fortunately, inspired by the captain's charm, the resistance of the watermelon peel never stopped. During Xing's journey, he did not encounter any trouble, but the increasing sway of the entire deck was constantly reminding him that the captain had no reason to ask him to steer and stabilize. In this sea, only the sound of artillery can cover up the sound of rainstorm and wind waves. Especially when those voices are intertwined and ringing in your ears. For Xing, the feeling of being alive has become clearer. This was confirmed after he used the knife as a cover to block the wooden pieces shattered by enemy shells, causing continuous bleeding in his arms, and crossing those who had broken hands and feet. During this short distance, Xing doubted several times whether he had been shot, just like the crew members who realized after he passed by that his lower body no longer existed and begged him to help find it. Fortunately, after being rescued by the captain, he seemed to have started transporting. At the cost of only a little blood, he walked completely to the rudder at the stern of the ship. At the moment of holding on to the rudder, this luck reached its peak. Fate tributary appears, system loading successful. The sudden sound that appeared in his mind covered all the ambient sounds, almost causing Xing to release the rudder in his hand. What is the tributary of fate? While thinking, I instinctively asked. Destiny is a fixed number, fortune is a variable, and the combination of the two is destiny. The fixed number carries variables forward, and most living beings can only follow the path of destiny. A very small number of people will have luck to change the fixed number, which will create a new node. Find the book Garden www.zhaozuiyuan.com to see the branch of destiny. Change. Xing felt a bit dazed and couldn't help but react. Indeed, it is a change. If it weren't for his arrival, then the sailor boy named Charles would have been a dead person. And Captain Wendy may not even remember to ask someone to come and stabilize the rudder, so looking at the broken hull and splashing wood, as well as the pirate ship on the side of the ship. Amidst the sound of the hull shattering and the screams of the dying, Xing tightly grasped the rudder, allowing the watermelon peel to struggle to maintain balance in this storm. The people on this ship won't die, will they? Unable to determine, the torrent of fate is incredibly powerful. Even if new nodes and tributaries appear, it is highly likely that they will eventually return to their original trajectory. What's the use of this tributary if it will eventually return? A tributary means the possibility of change. As long as it is large enough, it can be the true destiny. At the same time, the appearance of each fate node will give you feedback on your destiny rewards. The existence of each node signifies a change in fate. When luck is overwhelmed and variables temporarily replace fixed numbers, the original fixed numbers will naturally search for carriers, that is, you. The larger the node, the wider the tributaries, and the richer the feedback. Determine the node level as reef level. Reef. According to the influence of the tributary of fate, the levels of nodes are respectively the reef level that affects individuals, the pillar level that affects society, and the golden beam level that affects the world. It seems that this naval battle is not that important. Do you want to draw node rewards? Do you still need to think about it? My turn, draw. Chapter 2. Destiny Nodes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Please choose one of the following 3 options. Fragments of the celestial star, information. Under the guidance of fate, you will inevitably obtain a fragment of the celestial star. This is the beginning for the ordinary to reach the strong, and also the starting point for a change in fate. Unknown distance, blessing. With the blessing of fate, ride on a current and complete a safe voyage. Chaotic sea is the favorite sea area for merchants. The ocean currents here can safely transport you to any place, as long as you find the right one, as long as you find the right one. The empathy of the ship spirit, temporary. Under the witness of fate, become a community of destiny with the watermelon peel under your feet, and skillfully control it. Due to Captain Winder's love, the watermelon peel under your feet developed a confused consciousness, but this consciousness is about non-existent. Perhaps you can respond to the ship spirit's hope to help the captain. They're all good things, but it looks like I don't have a choice. The first option, whether it is the introduction of the system or the emerging desire in his heart, tells him that it is the treasure that Charles desires, something that ordinary people can change their destiny. Unfortunately, not to mention it's just information, even giving that fragment directly to oneself now would be of no use. The first mate and bosun in my memory are both powerful awakeners, and Captain Winder, who has the surname Malron, can even burst into a fight. Now that they are all in a difficult battle, it doesn't matter if there is another rookie awakener. The second option is indeed a rare treasure for merchant ships, as a stable waterway is no worse than a golden mountain. Even if the docking battle doesn't start now, finding a sea current to run away is a good choice. And now even if they ride the new ocean currents, those sea mice can still keep up unless it's raining harder. Looking up, there is indeed a trend of increasing rain, but I dare not wait. The ship is also likely unable to withstand it. Since the first two have already been determined to be of no help to the current situation, we can only gamble on the empathy of that ship spirit. At least. Slightly bowing down, firmly resisting the transmission that wanted to swing. At least it can make this thing more stable. Feeling the shaking around and listening to the continuous sound of artillery fire from the two pirate ships surrounding the watermelon peel, although knowing it was not necessary, Xing still shouted out loudly. Watermelon peel, move it. It feels like being punched hard in the stomach by the air, even starting to ache before the body can react. In dizziness, the feeling of being hit by the air becomes clearer and more intense. And it wasn't until Xing's body gradually began to come alive that he suddenly realized an unprecedented change in his vision. What shakes is no longer the surrounding environment, but oneself. In the impact of the air, the sound of those ship shells cracking was like a tear in one's own body. No, it's not like. It's not the impact of air, but the metal jets that the pirate ships are spewing. In the sound of shells tearing through the air and the hull being hit and shattered, Xing felt a clear pain and tearing sensation. At least I don't have to doubt if I was shot. Grasp the rudder tightly and deepen the sense of empathy. Xing, or the watermelon peel brand, has reached an agreement at this moment. He will not be harmed until the sinking of the watermelon peel. Similarly, once the watermelon peel receives an irreparable blow during the process of empathy, its own fate will not be much better. They used stick-shaped bullets, which have a lot of destructive power. It seems they made up their mind to sink us afterwards. With facts, Xing strengthened his determination to resist and searched for a way to counterattack. Many pieces of information can be received with the senses of a ship, which is much clearer than being tasted with the senses of a person. This is a good thing, but in battle it also means trouble, especially when you feel a child who is very ignorant and only whispers in your ear to help your father. Everywhere is a complex and chaotic message of flames, pain, and screams. All Xing could hear were the sound of wood shattering and people screaming, as well as the smell of death. After being hit by shells, the scattered pieces of wood were sprinkled with their blood, whether they were enemies or comrades in arms. Fortunately, even though Captain Wendy was limping, he could still hold on for Xing for a while. But the seawater pouring into the lower deck, the breakage of the crossbar, and the whimpering of the mast constantly reminded him to hurry up. Damn it, even the lookout hand is dead. It seems that no one can pull the main sail anymore. The pirates who cut off the heads of the lookout hands are advancing along the rope ladder on the crossbar, trying to completely destroy the watermelon skin of the main sail, leaving them with no way to escape. It was not until then that Xing finally understood what the system was saying about the power of the torrent of fate. Like a drowning fat man, the hull of the watermelon peel had begun to tilt and gradually sink into the water. This small tributary seems to be about to return to its original trajectory, but no, it won't be now. The ship spirit is a legend on the sea, a treasure that countless men on the sea crave. They all say that a ship with the protection of the ship spirit will be able to break through the wind and waves, and travel to every corner of the world. This is even a legend created by naturally occurring ship spirits, and no one knows what a conscious ship spirit can do. Xing knew that once he found the hull gun of the watermelon peel, he knew exactly what he could do. In the rich sulfur gas and thick black air, grenades and chain bullets, under the command of unknown forces, crossed the suffocating corpses in the cabin and, together with gunpowder that had shed their own blood particles, entered the barrel. Zhaozhuiyuan.com. Without turning the rudder, just the idea arose, and the entire watermelon peel swayed in an elegant arc under the grip of two pirate ships, completing an impossible adjustment of direction. Now, the guns on both sides of the ship's hull are all aimed at the enemy. Every gunpowder began to spontaneously burst into flames, and this perfect and full combustion made Xing believe. There should be no more perfect sea than this shelling. If there is, that's my second round of shelling. The uninterrupted side firing caused a slight pause in the entire battlefield. Now, it's the turn of the subjects of the watermelon peel kingdom to cheer. The smoke from the muzzle continued to diffuse, and the trajectory that could be adjusted at any time perfectly suppressed the two fast ships. As pirate ships, they may be lightweight enough, but their firepower can only be said to be that. The hooks and locks linked due to the docking battle have now become their lifeline, and after the grenades completely destroy those muzzles and the chain bullets penetrate the sails, they will also fall into the fate before watermelon peels. Everything seems to be getting better. The ammunition on the watermelon peel is sufficient to penetrate two more pirate ships, which is still the data manipulated by the crew. The ship spirit will not waste anything on board, especially because of the small matter of aiming. But at the forefront of the battle, Captain Winder did not relax at all, nor did he face any enemies. Similarly, the others under their command are still fighting. Under the influence of the ship spirit, Xing, who was constantly following its father, noticed this anomaly. The fighting between these strong men became particularly clear under his enhanced unique senses, making him realize what he had overlooked. Chapter 3. I want to see blood flowing into a river. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Damn it, a person's victory or defeat is more important than a ship. Although humans are never the strongest on the sea, for the people fighting on the ship, as long as there is still one more ship, it is enough. After entering the port of call, no matter how many enemy ships Xing penetrated, as long as the captain and his team lost, it was nothing more than a matter of changing a ship for the enemy. The shelling did not stop. At least the captain and his crew were not disturbed. With such thoughts in mind, Xing cherishes his shared time with watermelon peel. Although he doesn't know how long this empathy can last, since it was explicitly stated as temporary during the draw, it will end in the next second. The barrel began to change color, and the smoke of gunpowder completely spread. With the idea of truly piercing through enemy ships, accompanied by scorching rain curtains, choking sulfur gas, and the sound of fighting. Xing worked hard to find every weak point of the enemy ship, striving to completely penetrate them with the next round of shelling. Then he saw it. On the deck of the bow tower, the figure was so prominent that Xing suspected that something was wrong and that he had only now noticed something so dangerous. Xing is not sure what it is, and the danger like acupuncture makes it difficult for him to even determine whether it is a person. You should know that he is now in a state of stacking a ship, not just an ordinary ship. The watermelon peel is the top of the line, capable of matching the merchant ships of those awakened ones. What he should have thought of long ago. Without full confidence, even if the watermelon peel was fat, how could any pirate dare to stroke the captain's tiger beard? That person is the wave destined to sweep through the watermelon peel in the torrent of fate. He stood on the bow of the ship empty-handed, holding his arms. Even in this increasingly fierce wind and rain, every move exudes a very, even 9% carelessness. This is a kind of confidence, the confidence that even if there is only oneself, everything can be cleaned up cleanly. With him around, there will never be any accidents. So Xing can be certain that the man's eyes were fixed on him at some moment. He can see where the accident came from, so he will eliminate his own accident. Xing, who was aware of this, instinctively focused all the movable guns in that direction. Then, in the next moment when the gunfire filled the muzzle, the sense of danger suddenly disappeared. Hit. No, it won't be so easy. At this moment, Xing learned to doubt his own perception and further mobilized his perception belonging to the ship, striving to find the dangerous man. He may be able to reduce his sense of existence, but as long as he truly exists, for a ship spirit with clear will, as long as he is willing to spend time, he will definitely be able to find it. But now, the most scarce thing is time. The smoke from the shelling in the storm is rapidly dissipating, and Xing is still unable to find his target on the pirate ship. But he doesn't have to search anymore, as he felt before. How did you do it? The man who walked out of the smoke still held his arms, tilted his head and looked at Xing's back standing in front of the rudder with interest. I don't understand. In my view, you are clearly an ordinary person. Are you interested in telling me the reason? In the name of the White Dove, I may let you continue to serve me as the helmsman after everything is over. The wind took away the cold sweat from Xing's forehead, and the comfort in his ear calmed his tense thoughts. Gripping the rudder in his hand, the watermelon peel still responded to all his thoughts. The man named White Dove keenly sensed something and put down his arm for the first time. Two sharp blades, like water, were faintly visible in his hand. It's a pity that I haven't had the idea of leaving a living for a long time. You should have given me this opportunity. I'll give you 2 more shots. In an unnoticed corner, 2 small cannons installed at the stern of the watermelon skin boat for decorative purposes aimed at Xing's enemies, igniting a hidden fire of slaughter. Now, Xing can see clearly how he evaded. But he can't understand. The man just took a simple step forward, then disappeared from the net of artillery and appeared behind Xing in the next moment. Then, wave the weapon in your hand. Now, it's the White Dove's turn not to understand. No one knows that a sober ship spirit can appear in every corner of the ship besides being able to control the ropes, shells, and sails on its own. Standing in the captain's cabin, Xing looked up at the wooden ceiling. His vision was unobstructed, and he could clearly see the White Dove standing still after losing its tracks. But this did not bring any sense of security to Xing, especially as his gaze fell on the White Dove. The dangerous man immediately sensed something and lowered his head to look over. Just as if his field of vision was also unobstructed, he completed a gaze with Xing. You come over here. The clumsy provocation did not have much effect. The White Dove is a person skilled in killing, and more importantly, a rational person. In this cage far from land and unable to escape, he had ample time to play a game of cat and mouse. Zhaozhuyuan.com. So, it's better to get down to business first. With his next step, a weight that affected the balance appeared in Captain Winder's battle. Amidst the captain's shout, the bosun made his own resistance. But the flickering electric light did not bring him safety. The White Dove just waved its arm, and the power that belonged to the bosun seemed to have changed its owner, like wings surrounding him under his guidance. The flowing electric light followed the blade of the White Dove's left hand, while his right hand lightly penetrated the bosun's chest. Then, in the moment after the bosun's death, 2 weapons were stacked together, along with the lightning, to block Captain Winder's angry blow for his master. The surging flood accompanied the wind and rain, constantly washing away on the deck. But this cannot leave a white dove. The captain's strength is beyond doubt. But his strength is indeed a bit too cumbersome for a winged bird. The torrent can temporarily repel the white dove, but cannot prevent it from engaging in slaughter. Xing stood in the cabin, looking at the battle situation above, feeling a bit breathless. The voice in his ear was urging him to do something, and he also tried to return to the battlefield, but the remaining rationality forced his feverish head to start thinking. There is not much that even a ship's spirit can do in this level of port-to-port combat. But he must do something. After losing the boatswain, the captain and first mate could not hold on for long in front of the spokesperson for the Grim Reaper. If the ultimate outcome is destruction. Standing in the ammunition depot, Xing looked at the remaining ammunition. Then why don't blood flow into a river? Chapter 4. The Stage of Fire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ammunition Depot. The sudden shout overwhelmed the wind, rain, and waves, and all the sounds inside and outside the battlefield appeared silent amidst this terrifying scream. The ammunition depot is on fire. Unlike the somewhat panicked first mate and sailors, Captain Winder's movements did not stop at all. Although his body was covered in scars made by white doves, his knife remained as smooth as new, guiding the torrent. His voice remained calm and convincing. Will our ending change as a result? The tide surrounded the captain and crew, causing the enemy's attack to be put on hold. Or are you planning to give up resistance? The first mate, with the remaining sailors, tightly supported his king and watched as the pirates surrounded him. Your will is our destiny. Ha ha ha, great. It seems that Watermelon Peel also thinks the same way. The rainstorm could not cover it, and the gradually surging flame did not make the old man hesitate. He had seen his own end and accepted the funeral. And his crew also did not oppose this final voyage. This surging fighting spirit, as well as the heat wave and the cold wind, made the pirates hesitate a bit. The pirates hesitated, unwilling to use their own blood to extinguish this fighting spirit, while the white dove used equal slaughter to make these pirates make a choice. Kill all these crew members in order to save the ship. The white dove didn't expect these pirates to do what he said, but as long as these sea mice didn't back down, he had the charm to solve other problems. The troubles that he had previously overlooked in the firelight, through the cracked hull, the white dove saw a blazing flame in the gap. And Xing standing in the flames. You come over here. This time, the white dove responded to the provocation. As he took his steps, a watery blade pierced through his back and penetrated through his chest. I thought you set fire and led me over. There was some kind of trap. Standing behind Xing, the white dove appeared somewhat uninteresting. Ha! Ha! Don't be nervous, the pain is normal, and being unable to speak is also normal. But it will end soon, and you won't feel anything anymore. His hand pressed on Xing's shoulder, as if comforting. You've done a great job, there aren't many ordinary people who can resist like you do, and I even want to ask for your name. Xing did not respond, his strength was like flowing water, constantly overflowing with the wound. Pain is real and not illusory. Xing is ultimately not a true ship spirit, and the pain he inflicts on his body is something he cannot avoid. But when it comes to injury, that's still a bit lacking in meaning. For a large ship, even a sharp short knife is no more harmful than a stone shell. Fortunately, the captain did not bring much pressure to the white dove, allowing him to maintain a relaxed attitude even at this critical moment. This gave Xing enough time to adapt to this pain. Resistance. In your eyes, this is resistance. With a slight force, the sharp blade that pierced the chest should have been easily pulled out, giving the person in front of them a pleasure. My rebellion has just begun. The support from Watermelon Peel enabled Xing to grip the blade protruding from his chest. Setting fire is not to lure you into a trap. Setting fire itself is a trap. The originally faint Mars occupied every gap in the ammunition depot in this instant. The flames generated by the burning of a ship also belong to a part of the ship, and before it completely sinks, the spirit of the ship can dominate everything that belongs to the ship. The White Dove finally made a mistake. He tried to pull out his weapon, but wrestling with a ship was not a wise idea. Perhaps he had 100 ways to make Xing die in pain, but now he has no chance to retrieve his weapon. This not only caused him to lose his weapon, but also the best opportunity to leave. In the cracking sound, the floor under their feet was completely burned through. The sudden suspension made it impossible for the White Dove to move forward. He would not have another chance to take a step. The flames seemed to have life at this moment, tightly surrounding the two, trying to assimilate them. "This is my rebellion." Xing laughed heartily and offered his embrace. "Don't be nervous, pain is normal, and being unable to speak is also normal. But it won't end soon. You will be tormented by pain for a long time. After all, you are not like me. The White Dove is so strong that as an assassin, it can break free from the power of watermelon peel even in such times. But not enough." The tons of ammunition that had already been transported by Xing into the ammunition depot began a frenzy, venting their existence to the center of the stage. Cheering and roaring towards the only goal. Perhaps not the only one. Xing did not leave the center of the stage, and together with White Dove, they embarked on their final performance. A perfect explosion appeared in the ammunition depot of watermelon peel. That is a situation that would never have happened in theory. The claws of the flames tore apart half of the compartments of the watermelon peel, along with the two half-damaged pirate ships. They were more severely injured than watermelon peels, with huge cracks appearing on the hull and about to sink amidst moans. The pirates cried and made voices that were even more unbearable than the weak nobles they had plundered before. Amidst Captain Winder's wild laughter, he attempted to escape from the impending hell. As Xing thought, the ending of "blood flowing into a river" is much more comfortable than winning alone like you bastards. Do you think you won? At this time, as long as there is no winner, then I won't lose. In the bottom compartment filled with seawater, Xing mocked the White Dove. "It's impossible for you to say that the roasted pigeon won, right?" The White Dove ignored this provocation. He is a calm assassin with a unique understanding of keeping the enemy silent. Gasping for breath, breathing in the precious air in the bottom compartment, searching for the book garden www.zhaozuiyuan.com, the White Dove attempts to cross the sea in front of it. But his attempt was thwarted by the vastly different sense of weightlessness. You can also use flying. Xing tried to comfort his opponent and make him not sad because he lost a leg. "Believe me, if you fly over, I won't run, after all, that's all for me." Release the hand holding down the waist, and the crack that almost divides the entire body in half is clearly visible. This is the price that should be paid, as the endorsement of the ship spirit. We should share weal and woe with the ship. He doesn't regret it, and watermelon peel is also happy. Fortunately, until the ship was completely damaged, as long as he could hold back the pain, all injuries would not have a significant impact on him. But coincidentally, this is not. He really can't help it anymore. So Xing chose to actively approach the White Dove. "If you can't make it, I can also take the initiative." Of course, the White Dove will not give up this opportunity. At this moment, his open arms are like a pair of wings, tightly enveloping Xing. "I don't even have the strength to kill, and I dare to call myself a pirate." Holding the hand of the White Dove attempting to pull out the weapon, Xing laughed wildly. Faced with his smile, the White Dove could no longer remain calm, and its expression began to twist. "I don't know what you are, but everything you do is meaningless. Do you think you can save them? There's only one ship now, and those sea rats will go crazy just to survive. Your captain and those crew members are doomed. What you said is quite reasonable, so I think it would be unfair if only our people would die. Without even thinking about what Zhang Xing's words meant, the influx of seawater into the bottom compartment completely made the white dove lose consciousness. The watermelon skin was completely cut in two. Chapter 5. Flowing towards the distance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Without this reliance, the turbulent sea has finally demonstrated its majesty at this moment. The ocean currents that guided the storm instantly engulfed everything, whether it was a damaged ship or a mortal who was still fighting the previous moment, and now they all have the same fate. At this final moment, Captain Winder waved his weapon and tried to make the current that swept away the first mate and sailors milder. This is probably not very useful, but this old man has always liked to do things that are not very useful. For example, helping a little ghost who wants to set sail make up their mind. He turned around and looked at the starting point of the watermelon skin fracture. There must be a little ghost who has done what a true warrior should do in a place beyond our reach. This idea made Captain Winder couldn't help but laugh, just like when Charles decided to board the ship. In this way, the captain, with a smile that never faded, was completely engulfed by the raging waves. The broken watermelon husk let out a mournful cry, almost like a sob. No one could say whether it was the inevitable sound before the ship sank, or some helpless child shouting. Even Zhang Xing couldn't explain clearly. The torrent generated by the broken watermelon skin not only made the white dove completely lose its ability to resist, but also synchronized the damage to Zhang Xing's body. He won't die yet, but in this non-rhetorical, tearing pain, it's also difficult for him to stay awake. The moment before closing his eyes, the only thing he could do was control the seawater in the bottom compartment. Let that barely belong to his torrent, and choose a particularly fierce sea current for the white dove. Damn it, what evil did I fall for? Unable to answer Zhang Xing's question, Charles, who had died as a warrior, completely closed his eyes. Thank you. The clear voice of gratitude gradually faded away, taking away the pain. Thank you, thank you. In the vague voice of gratitude, a warm force enveloped Zhang Xing's entire body, causing him to fall into inexplicable tranquility and be very slow to deal with all the external disturbances. The thrust from the rootless place lifted Zhang Xing high, allowing him to recover his full body and avoid a collision that could break his spine. The ammunition depot, which had already been like a purgatory, once again ignited its final flame, with shattered decks and broken masts ignited by the star-like flames. As the flames rose, the sea monster fish attracted by the bloody battle retreated in shock and turned to choose corpses that were easier to enter. Fate has opened up new branches at this moment. The watermelon peel and its passengers may come to an end, but it will never be at this moment. At this moment, the community formed under the witness of fate, guided by the ocean currents, is heading towards an unknown distance together. No one knows where the ocean currents will take these people, perhaps only when these people truly survive can they tell this story to others. Perhaps it's still unclear. After all, Zhang Xing now doesn't even know whether he's awake or not. He doesn't know whether he's alive or dead, whether his body is intact, and what's the difference from the tattered shells around him. He only knows that the damn horse lamp has appeared again. Just different from before, he can no longer see the story that belongs to Charles. Although he actually remembered everything, it was different, completely different. The unspeakable difference is like a movie that uses his face, but he has no sense of involvement. But sometimes lack of participation is actually a good thing, just like what he is seeing now. Zhang Xing saw it. At first, it was just an old man. An old man named Wendy Malron used copper from the mountains and wood from the floating waves to build a small boat anchor in memory of his adventurous career. And it's like having a graphics card means having a matching board and with these, you have to keep up with the power and heat dissipation. Because of this anchor, Captain Wendy slowly accumulated keel, mast, deck, sail, rudder, crew, merchandise, crew as merchandise, and so on. Since we have everything, it's not appropriate not to run the waterway twice. In this way, the watermelon peel carried a pile of people's blood and braved the wind and waves on the sea. Then, it attracted a young man who was attracted by the captain, and he came to an end in his subsequent voyage. It, together with the young man, completed a commendable feat, licking bricks and tiles for the legend of the ship spirit, and then sent the young man away. In the midst of the sea monster and flames, it saw its own burning, and the radiance of those flames complemented the corpses surrounding it. The corpses widened their eyes, as if they couldn't believe they were dead. The reflection of fire in the eyes and the blood-stained seawater blend together, along with the swaying tendons and internal organs, to outline a painting about death. The chaotic ocean currents constantly shuttle back and forth, adding different colors to this painting. Just like an invisible big hand, everything that doesn't belong to watermelon skin, the fabric and firewood that can't be seen in shape, and the gradually twisted pieces of meat are held in the hand of the ocean current. Spinning around the watermelon peel, I searched for the book garden www.zhaohuiyuan.com to gradually dismantle it. Accompanied by the screams of pirates who still had a breath left, but were constantly torn apart by sea monsters, the disintegrated watermelon skin learned from its old father, accepted this sorrow, and also accepted this funeral, but I don't accept it. Xing doesn't intend to treat himself like a ship, even if the ship just fought with him, it wouldn't work. That would be too much fun. So he opened his eyes. The image in my eyes suddenly changed, and the picture filled with eerie beauty disappeared in an instant. There are only slight fiery red spots in the distance, as well as a slight contrast of light and darkness in the ocean currents under this dim light. In the colorful black, Xing didn't even have time to be surprised by his sense of ease in the current. Driven by an inexplicable feeling, he swayed his body and extended his hand towards the darkness ahead. He held on to something, and the authentic touch supported his hand. But Xing couldn't think about what he was holding. As he woke up, the predators who were just circling around, waiting for a full meal, were approaching. Unlike the warmth in his hands, the fins and tentacles that accidentally glided over his body, the slippery and icy sense of crisis, like needles constantly issuing warnings in his mind. Dinner is about to start. Xing, who didn't want to join the banquet as a food ingredient, clenched the object in his hand, kicked and waved his limbs. Through the fading flames, I picked a favorite ocean current amidst the colorful black. In the gradually rising sense of acceleration, a sentence suddenly flashed through his mind. The turbulent sea is the favorite sea area for merchants. The currents here can safely transport you to any place, as long as you find the right one, as long as you find the right one. Chapter 6. Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I hope I made the right choice. Regardless of whether Xing chooses the right destination or not, he always chooses the right one now. The screams of fear, different from the cries of pain during battle, are gradually fading away. Incomplete or intact corpses, as well as fragments of the ship's hull, can no longer be seen. During his journey, Xing kept his eyes open and knew everything around him. He was not sure how long his strange state could last, but since he was still alive, it was better to relax a bit. After a bloody battle, he doesn't care about anything now. After all, what Captain Winder said is very reasonable. Even if he dies now, he is still a warrior. However, the fate of death does not yet belong to him, so the unknown object in his hand provided Xing with sufficient support. Let him be safe and sound in this environment, and fall asleep soundly. Xing survived. After the warm sunshine shone on his face, the damp sand along the coast with a sea smell confirmed this fact once again. It's great to be alive, especially when you open your eyes and see you instead of a rough pirate. Now he knows what the water has given him to rely on, it is his community of shared destiny. Watermelon peel is the first and last trace in this world. The anchor named Watermelon Peel by the captain, or rather, because the anchor's name is Watermelon Peel, the ship has that name. According to this logic, you haven't died either. There was no response, and although the anchor inserted on the ground had no traction object, it continued to do its previous work as usual. Xing looked at the watermelon peel, which seemed a bit too petite as the anchor of a four-masted sailboat. Even not as big as Xing, only half of his age. But this precisely illustrates the preciousness of watermelon peel. During the years of navigation, this anchor has always been fulfilling its duties without any negligence. The anchor arm made of copper in the mountains endows it with a heavy weight, allowing it to work without any wear and tear, and can also hold on to its massive hull in the surging waves. The anchor rod and crown made of floating wave would give it enough toughness to freely guide every current without causing too much damage to each other. Even the appearance is so exquisite. The leather of the ancient thunder skin beast adds a completely unnecessary handle area on the anchor rod, and the pattern of the storm owl beast is engraved on the entire body of the watermelon skin, allowing the two main materials to perfectly construct its appearance of handling wind and thunder during its lifetime. The anchor arm, which unfolds like wings, flows with restrained force, only revealing a slight ferocity at the top of the anchor claw. It was supposed to be a weapon crafted by Captain Winder for himself, to carry out the duties of Captain Winder's surname and exercise the dignity of the deep sea for Malron. However, in the end, Captain Winder still admitted that he was old and did not completely build it, but chose to let it do what it seemed to be doing. But since you have changed back to this appearance, let me take you to do something else. Standing in front of watermelon skin, Xing extended his hand towards the grip made of thunder skin beast leather. Although only half his size, the weight of watermelon peel as an anchor is not much lighter than that of a ship. Xing's movements did not hesitate at all, as if picking up a pair of chopsticks and extending his hand. What does the witness of fate mean and represent? Xing now knows only the details. Before facing complete destruction, keep fighting with me. The sense of empathy with the ship's spirit has long disappeared with the destruction of the watermelon peel, but the community of destiny can still support each other. Just like now, watermelon peel entrusted its fate to Xing, and Xing at the moment of grasping the watermelon peel, Xing returned to that moment. The moment he first met Charles. And this time, the fully restored body is no longer just following his commands, but fully echoing his soul. An unprecedented sense of smoothness enveloped his whole body, and his body was no longer a cage, but an extension of his soul. Just the fit is indescribable, this is his body. Now, this body can see every trace of light, hear the surging tide of the sea, and smell the thunder and storm gradually gathering in the sky. It's now. In the songs of minstrels, they often refer to a person's awakening as a turning point in their destiny. Although somewhat exaggerated, it is not far from each other. There are probably 3 ways to become a strong person in this world. 1 is the path of knighthood. Whether you have talent or not, as long as you have a solid family background and are willing to endure hardship. So with rich nutrition and unique exercise, you have the opportunity to burst into fighting spirit and break through the limits of your body. From then on, as long as there is fighting spirit covering, one can become stronger through continuous exercise and gradually become a strong person who can break mountains and seas. The second is the path of wizards. People often say that a powerful wizard doesn't need anything and can do everything on his own. So no one can say exactly what a wizard can do, perhaps even the wizard himself doesn't know. After all, even if it is the inheritance between masters and apprentices, the same knowledge will have different effects in the hands of different people. So wizards need talent very much. In the world of wizards, people without talent are nothing. Look for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but as long as you have talent, whether you have teachers or treasures, you can even inherit this thing without it. As long as you have his mother talent, you can become a wizard who can dominate everything with spirit and do everything. Although most wizards can only perform tricks and a few can manipulate nature such as water, fire, wind, and thunder, there are always a few who can accomplish the legendary things. And ultimately, it is the path of awakening. Unlike knights who need wealth, wizards need talent. Awakening this kind of thing, as long as there is fate. Well, maybe we need some luck. For example, finding, buying, picking up, and grabbing a fragment of a celestial star. Since the breakage of the celestial star, people can find fragments of it in any corner, as if it has merged with all things. Human beings are also a kind of all things, so when a person merges with the fragments of the celestial star, they can overcome accumulation and quickly embark on the path of awakening. Of course, even those who don't have this thing can awaken, just like before, as long as you have life and are willing to work hard. In the bloody battle of life and death, at the moment when everything reaches its peak, your own awakening begins unconsciously. When you discover that you have some wonderful abilities, whether it's talking to fish, creating fear, or even fantasizing about a steel body, the awakening is completed. Without using the sky star fragments, most awakened ones come from a dead fight. Compared to the former in terms of safety and stability, although awakening in this way is dangerous, the acquired abilities are more in line with the awakener and more powerful. For Xing, who had just fully recovered from Charles's body and made an agreement with watermelon peel. At this moment, it is the ultimate moment. Chapter 7. Strange Things of Fate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No one can say for sure what they will experience during awakening, everyone can only say that the abilities of each awakened person are different. Even if they appear to have the same effect, the principles of their activation are different, and the methods and results of their final growth will not be the same. Xing is even less likely to know. Charles is a poor boy, knowing 3 ways to become stronger is already his intention, and if he wants more, it will be difficult for him. Charles. But Xing knows what his current state is. Perhaps it is a gift from heaven to the awakened, or perhaps it is his unique awakening, carried out in a state of bloodshed despite being in a safe environment, or perhaps it is because what he holds is the anchor of fate. In short, Xing feels very good, unlike before when he was in the sea and didn't even know whether he was alive or dead. At this moment, he could not only hear, see, and feel everything outside. He could clearly feel every change throughout his body. A certain feeling in the dark reminded him and deepened this sense. Xing began to recall the feeling he had as a ship spirit before, the feeling of being one with something, echoing and supporting each other. Then Xing heard the second heartbeat that appeared in his body. The heartbeat was so loud that it shook every part of Xing's body, like being put into a blender, causing intense pain. In the pain, a huge, incredibly fierce shadow accompanied his heartbeat and appeared in his mind. In Xing's imagination, this shadow was constantly expanding, covering his body with bewildered steps. The next moment, Xing felt that his body also began to expand and expand again, overlapping with the shadow. He became it, an omnipotent deep-sea tide, a beast of ocean currents. So the ancient thunder-skin beast summoned light, the copper in the mountains burst forth with force, the floating wood attracted ocean currents and waves, and the thunder and fierce wind in the sky were also responding to the roar of the storm owl beast. This natural power is celebrating the birth of one of its kind. This won't work. So everything came to an abrupt end, with the light fading away and the waves fading away. When the thunder extinguished, the strong wind ceased. The swollen body and overlapping shadows began to contract, and the great power from the beast dissipated without a trace during the process, leaving only a slight residual sound. This residual noise is so weak and skillful. It still vibrates every part of Xing's body, but each vibration no longer brings pain, but rather a genuine growth. It turned back to him, back to the mortal standing on the shore, beginning to embark on the path of the strong. Awakened Xing opened his eyes. Damn it! Only by gaining can one know how painful it is to lose. Even in imagination, it is impossible to determine the authenticity. But after feeling the power that could move mountains and seas, Xing now only feels a great pain in his heart, a double pain. Why do you say I have to speak up? Although I probably can't handle it, if you say I grit my teeth, what if, slapping the anchor in front of me, then I'll make it through, then I'll have everything. Sighed and pulled out the watermelon skin from the sand. Look at the result, now both of us brothers are losing a lot, aren't we? Carrying the weightless treasure on his shoulder, Xing looked around at his environment. Swinging the anchor, trying to bring the receding tide closer in the distance, but as expected, there was no response at all. Perhaps there is, but it is so weak that even the operator cannot feel it. Close your eyes and ponder for a moment. Compared to the process of awakening, the senses that are much blurry are constantly being explored in your body, carefully feeling what your current state is. Then Xing sadly realized that apart from his weak and persistently strengthening body under the second heartbeat, there was not much he could do. He cannot summon storms and thunder, nor can he stir ocean currents, nor can he use light as his shield like ancient thunder beasts. The only thing we can do is, Tue. A powerful stream left deep marks on the sand with his movements, but looking at this mark, Xing felt even more pain in his head. What the hell is this? Does the Dragon King spray water? I poked the watermelon peel on my shoulder and sighed again. I don't know how long it will take to make up for such a big loss. Obtain a destiny artifact, and a destiny node appears. Draw. I didn't even look at what it was. At the moment I heard the system prompt, Xing jumped up like an electric shock. This node has not yet triggered a tributary, so node rewards cannot be extracted. What? This node has not yet triggered a tributary, unable to. What do I mean by destiny wonder, and why doesn't it have a tributary? For the torrent of destiny spanning ancient and modern times, the past and present are just simple changes in scale. However, for everything in the torrent, time is a magical thing. Some things are just simple stones at the beginning, but their fate becomes a gem in the end. Some characters are heroes at the beginning, but their fate ends in betrayal and estrangement, and some people are born and die as ordinary people. Well, this last example doesn't actually need to be mentioned. But it shows that for many things, being ordinary is also a fate. Find Zheishuan www.zhaosuiyuan.com. So, the torrent of fate is not always magnificent, it will have ups and downs. On the scale of ancient and modern times, many things do not trigger a huge trend as soon as they appear. Only when their destiny appears, will the torrent of fate be interpreted. Looking at the watermelon peel on his shoulder, Xing seemed to understand something. As he had imagined, the system immediately gave him affirmation. Destiny is something like this. In the planning of fate, it is destined to trigger a huge trend. But on the scale of time, the arrival of this trend is a future that you may never be able to reach. So, although I have now formed a community of destiny with watermelon peel, it is possible that watermelon peel's fate will not come until I die. And when I do die, the torrent of fate will push watermelon peel towards its own future, right? No wonder there are only nodes and no tributaries. Nodes are just nodes, and the countless possibilities of fate are countless nodes, but the flood will ultimately lead these possibilities to a result. Only by identifying the tributaries that can cause unexpected events in fate, and allowing variables to completely overwhelm fixed numbers, can the original fixed numbers become their rewards. Thinking of this, Xing suddenly relaxed and smiled. It seems that I'm not important at all, at least not at the moment. The torrent of fate is very powerful, and you should have experienced it. This node was unable to trigger a tributary, which is actually a good thing for you now. It's indeed a good thing. Recalling the previous battle on the ship, Xing had a full understanding of the strength of fate's counterattack. If the fate of watermelon peels were to change, he might wait. Chapter 8. Principles of Rewards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xing suddenly realized something. Perhaps the counterattack of fate began from the moment the node appeared. There are many reflections on fate in your past life, such as all the resistance you have made against it, which will push you towards that fate. As for the fate of watermelon peel itself, he now has some speculations. Based on the tributary they first triggered, the watermelon peel and Captain Wendy's group should have been sunk by the white pigeon on the 7th route. And the watermelon peel, with only a naive consciousness, is powerless to do whatever it wants. In the end, it may also be like now, with only one anchor left, carried to unknown places by the wonderful currents in the turbulent sea. But looking at the precious materials used to build the ship's anchor, and considering the captain's surname, I believe that as long as they are still in the sea, sooner or later, the angry watermelon peel will set off a huge wave and launch a delayed revenge. And a child who is angry, unable to vent hatred, but holds power, doesn't need to think too much about what they can do. When Xing thought of his awakening, it was unlikely to be an illusion of power, so he smacked his lips. The system's rewards are really hard to obtain, almost bringing that fate forward. Although he helped the watermelon peel vent his hatred and prevent it from entering the ocean currents, as long as he couldn't control it a bit earlier, the future ocean current beast may have appeared earlier. If I were really abnormal, wouldn't it be considered a change in fate? The incident has not yet happened, this is unknown, you're at least a system, I don't know. Because I am a system, that's why I don't know. For a moment, Xing nodded knowingly. That's right, if you can know before it happens whether there will be any changes and what it will be like after the changes occur, then there's no need to reward me for the appearance of the tributary of fate. The existence and direction of all tributaries are unknowns, whether good or bad, and cannot be predicted. Rewards can only be extracted after the host has effectively caused the node to trigger a tributary, and the reward level is determined by the difference between the variable that appears and the fixed number. I understand, so I didn't let the future watermelon peel appear before and there wouldn't be any reward. After all, in the original fate, there wouldn't be a watermelon peel coming out to stir up the wind and rain at this time. On the contrary, if I were really abnormal, there was a high probability that there would be a reward, but at that time, I might still be myself. In that case, no matter how big the reward is, it doesn't make much sense. Grip the watermelon skin tightly and feel the general sense of closeness with blood vessels connected. And fate's strange object is a hint, or a prerequisite task. As long as I have a deep enough entanglement with it, perhaps it can trigger a powerful enough tributary to change the distant future. Yes, just like his mother pancakes, I will find you a suitable street lamp someday. Carrying watermelon peels, Xing laughed and joked to himself, kicking and hitting the sand under his feet while shaking his body. Using the seawater thrown out of him as evidence, he can still control the ocean currents, but the distance and scale are a bit small. But as long as there is a prospect, let's develop slowly. Walking along the coastline, the footprints of varying depths on the beach gradually become uniform and shallower. Xing learned to make watermelon peels lose their weight, not only because it was not oppressive for him, but also because it no longer weighed anything else. Only in this way can the enemy ignore this strange weapon. After all, it's only this big, what kind of killing power can it have? Along the way, Xing saw a lot of wreckage besides sand. Whether it's from ships, humans, or fish or animals. Of course, none of them are very fresh. It can be seen that Xing's luck is good. The unknown ocean current he chose sent him to this island, which is not a remote intersection. From time to time, new unlucky people die on the coast. And seeing him walking for so long, the coastline is still extending, and this island is not much smaller. This means that if he had better luck, the island could even be a supply station on a legitimate waterway in the turbulent sea. In that way, he may have a chance to ride the boat. If that's the case, we can't continue on this path. Xing's gaze deviated, and the enhanced vision after awakening allowed him to see the surging currents and some small fish living in the nearshore through the blue seawater. Not big, but fierce one by one, constantly competing for territory in the nearby reefs, tearing at each other and various unknown flesh. Hidden reefs. After thinking for a moment, if this is really a supply station on the waterway, then it should not be a place to dock as it has no artificial traces, no natural deep water port, and a coastline full of reefs. Along the way, the wreckage of ships can be seen everywhere along the coastline. Even if there is a ship, it's probably not visible here. What can be seen is all broken. It's better to swim directly into the water to cross the turbulent sea with these things. Looking back, Xing kicked open a deck in front of him, smashed a shell monster hidden under the deck for half a day, and rushed towards him after seeing the light. It was unclear whether it was a hermit crab or something. With my back to the tide, I stepped away from my feet. Speaking of which, should the awakened be okay after eating this thing? Xing, who had taken 2 steps and then turned around, crouched in front of the prey he had knocked to death, his face hesitant. But it must be mentioned that he hasn't eaten anything for a long time. After the watermelon peel sank, he didn't know how long it had been floating in the ocean currents. Even on the watermelon peel, Xing has never taken a sip of water and has been fighting from start to finish. Okay. The meal Charles had shouldn't be on my head, and he vomited so much that it felt like he hadn't eaten it. So I should have eaten a little, otherwise if I really encounter something later, it will be troublesome if I don't have the strength. After breaking off a pair of claws from a hermit crab, Xing looked at the white flesh at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and hesitated. Anyway, he needs to eat something. Even if he doesn't eat for a while now, he still needs to eat a little. Even if he is so lucky that he can see a docked ship passing through this island, he must first have the ability to ride the ship before he can appear in front of those people. Every ship on the sea is an independent kingdom and full of aggression. This is what Captain Wendy taught his crew, for example, the 2 ships of the White Pigeon, and until there are no other examples, Xing has no intention of opposing this statement. And he never dares to touch the fruits on the island, and the effects of those things cannot be said to be good. And he doesn't plan on the next sea, so looking around now, there shouldn't be any safer meat on this coast than this thing in front of him. There are indeed some ready-made cured meat on the shattered ship, but it's really hard to say what kind of meat it is. After conducting a resonance examination inside the body and confirming that there were no wounds, I hope it won't spray. With the sound of the waves, Xing began his dining routine. When this person eats without a phone, it's easy for them to have wild thoughts and think that something is wrong. Wait a moment, since the captain and the others were sunk in the original fate, the group of white doves will definitely not follow in feeding the fish. Now that I've sunk them together, shouldn't it have had no impact? He inquired about his system. Even if I survive, I can be a tributary of fate. The white dove can be considered a strong person if he doesn't say anything. Unless he finishes this job and washes his hands in gold, it's impossible for such a person to have no explanation. You damn it. You're not giving me a kickback on my reward, are you? Chapter 9. Encounter again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The tributary of fate has not yet appeared, and rewards cannot be extracted. Don't mess with it. Did that guy wash his hands in a real golden bowl? Aren't people who retire after finishing a vote all dying miserably? Isn't that worse than me? The fate tributary has not yet appeared, and the cause cannot be determined. Wow, how do you make me say, hello? Not only are there not enough features, but the interaction is also lacking. The tributary of fate has not yet appeared, and further interaction is not possible. Helplessly shaking his head, Xing teased the system while trying to make himself eat the food on his hand. He ate this meal very slowly. After all, he didn't have much habit of eating fresh food. Even if there is, the things I eat now are still too fresh. The taste is decent, although it is real seafood, the fishy smell is not particularly strong. Baking it may be better, or adding something else to stew together. Awakening is indeed a comprehensive reinforcement, whether it is in the mouth, digestive ability, or hearing. Well, it could also be some other feeling, such as the sixth sense. In short, Xing's eating action suddenly came to a halt because he felt something that didn't look like fish mixed in with a current coming towards the shore. Slightly straightened up, Xing stared deep into the sea. The surging currents in the field of vision are intertwined, constantly colliding yet orderly, with an indescribable pattern faintly visible. Among them, there is a current that stands out from the crowd. It looks very dangerous, surging fiercely, with a strong and fierce energy emanating from every turn and impact. Just like a passionate bull, seeing other currents as competitors and putting everything together to crush all of these competitors. That's also why Xing chose it in the first place. Yes, Xing recognized this ocean current. Although it has become a bit small now, it seems that in the next moment, it will constantly erode its own existence due to collisions with its own kind, and then disappear into this turbulent sea. But at least for now, it still maintains a bit of its original grandeur, still so fierce and dangerous. The chaotic words in the chaotic sea are vividly reflected at this moment. Even Xing himself could not have imagined that although he was thrown into the current first, he was only about to dock now. Even it shouldn't have docked with him. The fierce current should have dissipated long ago, along with the person it enveloped, completely sleeping in this sea and then forgotten by the world. As a result, this current not only withstands until now, but also protects the goods it transports very well. The goods being transported were also, even though they were only alive, they were already doing their best. Not only were they seriously injured, but they also fell into a coma and couldn't do anything. But after being firmly bound in the ocean currents, the collisions and abrasions between those currents not only did not have any impact on him, but occasional turns during the collisions also allowed the currents to rush out of the sea, providing him with some air sufficient to sustain himself. Xing was a bit engrossed as he didn't know what to say. Everything in my eyes is like an indescribable picture drawn by fate. If Xing really wants to say something, it can only be, no wonder my reward hasn't been received yet. It turns out it's you bastard who hasn't died yet. Fate blesses the white dove to live well, and it seems that he will also live well in the future. As expected, after the fierce ocean current used its last strength to send him ashore, he would probably wake up like Xing before, in the slightly blazing sunlight and the damp sand on the coast filled with sea smell. First, let's marvel at our own survival after the disaster, and then grow into a more outstanding and powerful person through the honing of this experience. If you haven't met me. Xing's eyes were very calm, as he looked at the approaching figure in the sea. He thought he would be angry. Angry at this person, everyone on the watermelon peel had a devastating ending. But he's not Charles after all, so he's just a little emotional and joyful. I am delighted that I can solve the future problems at this time, and I am delighted that fate has blessed the white dove. Although Xing no longer has a ship named Watermelon Peel, he still has an anchor named Watermelon Peel. After rounding, there shouldn't be much difference. Xing still has a bit of confidence in whether he can handle it now. At least he just woke up. If he can't even handle a half-dead disability, it's a bit unreasonable. Slowly swallowing the last bite of crab meat and wiping his hands with sand, he slowly clapped his hands and stood up. Xing leaned against the watermelon peel inserted in the sand and began to daydream in his last leisure time. The current that brought him to this island, as well as the current where the white dove is now, all prove one thing to him. That's because it's really possible that this is a supply station. As long as he passes through this island, he can see what he wants to see on the other side of the island. The saying goes that if you don't die in a great disaster, there will always be good fortune. If you find a white dove at the book garden www.zhaozhuyuan.com, it means that he is destined to have unfinished tasks. And since we want him to do something, it's impossible to keep him trapped here, there will inevitably be a way to leave. However, although fate has arranged a ship for us all, we are destined to only have one ticket between us. Grasping the watermelon peel, Xing walked towards the figure lying on the beach. The white dove is still unconscious, looking so weak. Only by seeing it with his own eyes can Xing marvel at how he can achieve this level. His previous mockery at the bottom warehouse was not unreasonable, and now the white dove is really like a half-cooked roasted chicken. At first glance, that robe was very precious, with beautiful embroidered badges. Now it can only be said to be worthy of its appearance. Even if it is broken like this, it can still cover up the shame of the white dove and make him look still in a state of war damage rather than begging. But this battle damage is somewhat too thorough. Zhang Xing only felt that, aside from the broken leg, the white dove is still alive, largely thanks to the fire in his ammunition depot. The flames sealed the wound of the white dove, making his journey less attractive to sea monsters and less likely to die from excessive bleeding. It's all like this, can he really survive? Whoever sees such an injury will have the same doubts as Zhang Xing. Even if the white dove wakes up, it's a question whether he can stand up again on this helpless coast. Flames are not stitches, they have been blown into this virtue, let alone the issue of infection. After waking up, the movement should be slightly larger, and the wound should be completely cracked, even bleeding can flow to death. Will there really be a ship leaving here? As Zhang Xing thought this way, he became an anchor in front of the white dove's head. Chapter 10. Cutting Grass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The marquee is a fun and fair thing. Interestingly, you cannot actually decide what scenes you can see, nor can you tell others what you see. Fairness lies in the fact that besides Zhang Xing, everyone else can also flash the spotlight. The white dove is looking back on its life, and those magnificent stories are constantly flashing before its eyes. However, even the most glorious things will come to an end. At the end of this memory, the white dove saw the rain curtain from the next day, the ships breaking through the waves, the brave battles, the flames burning down everything, and beating from the current. He had already accepted his failure, but this final beating was just too much. It makes people feel uneasy to die. So the white dove stopped on the path of the underworld, following the guidance of the sun and the hint of pain all over its body, and opened its eyes on the beach. What a dazzling sunshine, but surviving really. Puzzy. In the flying yellow sand, the watermelon peel plunged into the sand. Zhang Xing tilted his head and said, "It seems that your life shouldn't have ended, or rather it's not that easy to end it." Not far from him, the white dove, who had opened its eyes at the last moment, endured the excruciating pain all over her body, covered the cracked wound, and supported her body with one foot, panting uncontrollably. You can stand up even without anyone to help you get hurt like this, truly a master. I can't believe you didn't die either. With a sneer, he laughed and said, "As you said, you can survive even if you're injured like this, and why should I die if I'm not injured?" The white dove gritted its teeth and scanned the intact Zhang Xing with a somewhat gloomy expression. Zhang Xing was also looking at him, and the guy who had previously brought him an infinite sense of danger was really injured now, leaving him without any sense of nervousness. The only thing I have is probably just a heartfelt pity for him. Anger and calmness may sound unbelievable, but this is the first time their eyes have officially met. Place the watermelon peel on the shoulder, and Zhang Xing gradually approaches the white dove. It seems that fate has indeed issued a ticket here, but only one person between us can get it. So, don't try to escape, just like your previous thought on the ship. Zhang Xing smiled and clenched his weapon. This island is also a prison, where we have nowhere to escape. Although he spoke confidently, the slippery touch emanating from the tightly held weapon made Zhang Xing realize that he was still somewhat nervous. Unlike fighting as a ship, and completely different from patching up a fallen piece of meat, it was not until then that Zhang Xing realized he was not sure if he was ready. Prepare to engage in a battle with a fellow species and deprive them of their life. So Zhang Xing walked slowly, trying to adjust his state step by step, and also creating pressure on the dove. After realizing that it was impossible to do it in a short period of time, the white dove no longer tried to make its breathing more even, but also put down the hand pressed on its chest. Short 2 breaths, at the cost of the remaining clothes on the chest being completely dyed red, temporarily relieved the injury of the white dove. We don't have hatred, do we? His voice became weak, almost groaning. Since I dare to take action, it shows that I know that ship very well. If you really understand, then you wouldn't be like this now. Zhang Xing couldn't help but laugh, although the white dove shouldn't be like this now, who wouldn't let him know. So he tried his best to explain, you probably don't have much to do with them. I've observed this voyage for a long time, and every time the watermelon peel docked, there was no trace of you. Even though you have that kind of ability, it's more important for a ship than a captain or any position. The white dove spread its hands, and Zhang Xing should understand what he meant. What an insult it is to have such an ability but not have the slightest chance of appearing on the journey. Zhang Xing remained silent and did not speak. You should be a wizard, or an awakened person with extremely precious abilities. But they don't respect you like that, and I'm different. I know you, he paused, you defeated me, this is an undeniable fact. Although I have already had an advantage, it was completely reversed after you entered the game. Your name should be heard throughout this ocean, not hidden by those people, just as a personal tool. This person is really dangerous. Watching the white dove talking confidently, Zhang Xing's mind flashed with such thoughts. You are destined to make some achievements, and in this process, you need help, and I am capable of fulfilling this responsibility. I have ample experience, and my past reputation can serve as a stepping stone for you, and I can also make you feel at ease. He can even show off his ruined leg without any resentment. After all, I can't do anything anymore. You can take my life at any time. Trembling and jumping, the white dove struggled to raise its neck, indicating its weakness and helplessness. If he is truly a novice genius, then he should have long been complacent in the face of such words and actions, even if his lack of fame is actually another reason, and his ability to perform like that is not a special ability or awakening of a wizard. But can people deceive themselves? What if they beautify themselves? After all, earning money is not shabby. Zhaoshuyuan.com. Unfortunately, Zhang Xing cannot deceive himself. Who made this person in front of me really too dangerous? I used to be quite nervous, but your behavior actually made me relax. As Zhang Xing approached the distance where they could almost embrace each other, he looked at the white dove in front of him with a humble smile, and tightly grasped the watermelon peel that had become more convenient. He adjusted his state and burst into a murderous heart, but fortunately, white doves do the same thing. With a loud bang, the waving watermelon skin was bounced open by a small knife amidst the blooming sparks. That is the last knife that the white dove hides on its body, giving it a trump card to fight against at any time. This knife is fast and hard. Almost so that every time he makes a neck-jerking posture, he can pull it out if the other person really hits, hard enough to be in the hands of his white dove, capable of firing any weapon and inflicting a fatal blow. The white dove used this move to kill many people. He had never seen anyone who could bow down to him without any reaction, nor had he seen anyone who would not be surprised by this blow. And today, the white dove saw two types of people on one person. Zhang Xing, who was not surprised at all, followed this force and quickly turned around, swinging his weapon out again in a whimpering sound of breaking through the air. Now, the unexpected person turned into a white dove. In front of the watermelon peel, the white dove was looking bewildered, trying to shake its hands and grip the knife tightly. Just trying to block my anchor with a single sword, are you also practicing Wing Chun? I don't understand what Zhang Xing's words mean, nor do I understand why my incredibly confident sword feels like it was hit by a ship, but white dove understands very well that if this anchor were to fall he's doomed.